Employee engagement is such a hot topic at the moment, and it seems to have become more so, say, in the last decade or in the last 5 years. Why do you think that is?
Well, you can look at it from two perspectives. One is from the organisation, and the other is from the employee. Mm-hmm. Let's start with the wrong place. Let's start with the organisation, if you like. Organisations, they wouldn't tolerate if their computers worked extremely well Monday and Tuesday up to about Wednesday lunch, then worked a bit from Wednesday lunch to Thursday lunch, and didn't work at all Thursday lunch till the end of Friday. I mean, wouldn't tolerate that. And yet only around a third of employees are actively engaged. A third are pretty neutral, and a third aren't engaged. In fact, the UK is 19th last equal for the biggest number of disengaged employees. So that wasted resource has to be addressed. In the world that's far more competitive and getting even more competitive. We need all our people who are working together to achieve something. Everyone, let's not overuse the word engaged, they're committed, they own, they have aspiration, they're trying to achieve things. So from the organisation's perspective, it's a massive, massive waste of talent and resource to not have people engaged. And then from the employee's perspective, there's a very strong correlation between engagement and well-being. And if people are engaged because they feel good about their jobs, they feel listened to, they feel respected, they feel heard. When the basic raw material of well-being, autonomy and some control and some affirmation of progress, when these things are in place, then it's good for the employee, and when we're more engaged, it's good for the organisation. So there are, from either end, engagement has moved up the agenda, where it's now in the top 3 or 4 issues for most organisations. Even I think Sir Bruce Keogh in the NHS, it's in one of the top 10 issues is employee engagement. So it's moved up because of these pressures and the changes in attitudes amongst employees who come to work, where they really expect these things, not just millennials, but all of us.
Why do you think, you mentioned that Britain was at the bottom of the list, or near the bottom of the list for being good at engagement? Why do you think that is? Why do you think Britain has been so kind of traditionally almost bad at engagement?
Well, actually, we're very patchy at engagement. There's some fabulous examples of engagement in the UK, and there's some really dire examples of it. And those that, where they're making a really good fist of it, two things really. First of all, they see people as the solution to the challenges they face, as opposed to a problem to be managed with ever more smart objectives and ever more KPIs and so on. They actually see that when we get our people together, and with social media it's much easier to do that, to solve the challenges we're facing, the need for more innovation, the need to move into new market sectors, the need to improve our customer service, whatever it is, they draw the people together so that we find our way forward, and people are therefore far more committed to whatever the solution is, because they've been a part of developing it.
I was talking before about the fact that small businesses seem to be much better at engagement than say, bigger firms. Do you agree with that? And do you think that, say, bigger companies now have to learn and take cues from smaller companies to be better at engagement?
Well, smaller companies have the benefit of a greater sense of the human being, because we know each other very well in small companies. So they do start with that benefit. However, we've also noticed from some excellent work done by the LEAD programme in the Northeast that working with a lot of SMEs, there is a glass ceiling at around 50 employees. Because up to around, give or take, up to around 50 employees, you can manage through the hub and spoke model, that the owner, who knows more about everything, the customers and what they do and their service or the good they produce, they manage everything in a sort of hub and spoke model. Now, when you get to 50 employees, that starts to break down. There's sort of too many to manage that way, and you have to start to manage in a different kind of way. You have to manage in an engaging way where people are enabled to get on with things. And that transition is a very difficult thing to do. Webmart, which is a fantastic example, under Simon, their chief executive, talking about moving from the hub and spoke model to an engaging across the whole piece. One of the biggest challenges he faces, he's done a brilliant job at it, and we need to help. So it isn't as simple as saying small companies do it well. Once they're over 50 employees, there's some horrendous examples of disengaged employees in small companies, as well as some excellent examples.
Yeah. Perhaps we could just finish off by you telling us a little bit about the organisation that you've put together, which is Engage for Success.
Yeah. Well, Nita Clark and I wrote a report with a lot of input over a year.
Employee engagement is such a hot topic.
We wrote a report
at the moment,
on
and it seems
the topic,
to have become more so,
and we
say, in the
then
last decade.
launched a task force that the Prime Minister
why do you
launched,
think that is?
which is, well, you can look at it from two perspectives. 99% from the organisation, and the coming together of people who believe this is an important topic and want to share and learn in organisations. And they wouldn't tolerate. The team has built a website, worked extremely well, Monday and Tuesday up to about Wednesday lunch. Then worked 25 from Wednesday lunch to Thursday lunch, and didn't work at all Thursday lunch till the end of Friday. Of disseminating good practice and ideas and so on. As a task force that people are on to help direct where we should be putting our efforts. A third are pretty neutral, and a third aren't engaged. Working on particular topics that people have suggested that they want to work with their peers and disengaged organisations where selling anything is just a wasted resource. Topic of interest to them is there's a whole range of things, a radio show in the world that's far more whole range of things that people can get involved with in this kind of voluntary sense. We need all our people who are working together to achieve something. Everyone.org, then have a look at it, because there's all sorts of absolutely free resources, all sorts of case studies, all sorts of ways of gaining input to things that you're tackling. And the last thing I'd say is two things that might be of interest. One is many of us have colleagues we need to persuade on the importance of the topic. And on the web you can find an excellent talk by Alex Edmonds, a professor of finance from London Business School, on the relationship between great places to work, i.e. engaged places to work, and shareholder returns. There's a great paper written by Bruce Rayton a few years ago, but still very valid, and some showing the evidence of the correlation, and then the four things that we found in organisations, the four lenses to look through when you're addressing the topic, and when we're more engaged, are also the organisation well explained. So there are, and are helpful ways if you're trying to get started. Engagement has moved up the agenda where you are in your journey. In the top 3 or 4 issues for most organisations. Again, even I think Zabuscio in the ways of doing the NHS. It's in strategic narrative, issues, story, employee engagement. So it's moved up for someone who's engaged. Pressures, employee voice changes permeate the organisation among employees who come to values where they really overlap with the behaviours, not just millennials, but they come together. All of us. And those things.
Why do you think you mentioned that Britain was at the bottom of the list,
and we like to take the opportunities
for being good at engagement? Why do you think that is? Why do you think Britain has been so traditionally almost bad at engagement?
Well, spread the message. Actually, we're very patchy. Raise the profile of the topic. There's some fabulous examples of engagement in the UK. And there's some really dire examples of it. And those that, where they're making a really good fist of it, two things really. First of all, they see people as the solution to the challenges they face, as opposed to a problem to be managed with ever more smart objectives and ever more KPIs and so on. They actually see that when we get our people together, and with social media it's much easier to do that, to solve the challenges we're facing, the need for more innovation, the need to move into new market sectors, the need to improve our customer service, whatever it is, they draw the people together so that we find our way forward, and people are therefore far more committed to whatever the solution is, because they've been a part of developing it.
I was just talking before about the fact that small businesses seem to be much better at engagement than say, bigger firms. Do you agree with that? And do you think that, say, bigger companies now have to learn and take cues from smaller companies to be better at engagement?
Well, smaller companies have the benefit of a greater sense of the human being, because we know each other very well in small companies. So they do start with that benefit. Yeah. However, we've also noticed from some excellent work done by the LEAD programme in the Northeast that working with a lot of SMEs, there is a glass ceiling at around 50 employees. Because up to around, give or take, up to around 50 employees, you can manage through the hub and spoke model, that the owner who knows more about everything, the customers and what they do and their service or the good they produce. They manage everything in a sort of hub and spoke model. Now, when you get to 50 employees, that starts to break down. There's sort of too many to manage that way, and you have to start to manage in a different kind of way. You have to manage in an engaging way where people are enabled to get on with things. And that transition is a very difficult thing to do. WebMart, which is a fantastic example under Simon, the chief executive, talking about moving from the hub and spoke model to an engaging across the whole piece. One of the biggest challenges he faced, he's done a brilliant job at it, and we need to help. So it isn't as simple as saying small companies do it well. Once there are over 50 employees, there's some horrendous examples of disengaged employees in small companies, as well as some excellent examples.
Yeah. Perhaps we could just finish off by you telling us a little bit about the organisation that you've put together, which is Engage for Success.
Yeah. Well, Nita Clark and I wrote a report with a lot of input over a year from many, many organisations. We wrote a report on the topic, and we then launched a task force that the Prime Minister launched, which is 99% of voluntary coming together of people who believe this is an important topic and want to share and learn in equal measure. And we've built, the team has built a website courtesy of Thomson Reuters and WPP, which gets around 25,000 hits a month, and is a way of disseminating good practice and ideas and so on. There's a task force that people are on to help direct where we should be putting our effort. There are all sorts of subgroups working on particular topics that people have suggested that they want to work with their peers and people from other organisations where no one's selling anything, it's just a group that wants to address a topic of interest to them. There's a whole range of things, a radio show every week. There's a whole range of things that people can get involved with in this kind of voluntary sense. And if you go onto www.engageforsuccess.org, then have a look at it, because there's all sorts of absolutely free resources, all sorts of case studies, all sorts of ways of gaining input to things that you're tackling. And the last thing I'd say is two things that might be of interest. One is many of us have colleagues we need to persuade of the importance of the topic. And on the web you can find an excellent talk by Alex Edmonds, a professor of finance from London Business School, on the relationship between great places to work, i.e. engaged places to work, and shareholder returns. There's a great paper written by Bruce Rayton a few years ago, but it's still very valid, showing the evidence of the correlation. And then the four things that we found in organisations, the four lenses to look through when you're addressing the topic, are also, I think, well explained and are helpful ways if you're trying to get started, or indeed improve where you are in your journey, to come back to these four things time and time again. People have found them helpful ways of doing it. That there's a strategic narrative, story. I work for someone who's engaging. Employee voice permeates the organisation. There's integrity where the values overlap with the behaviours that they come together. And those things are, I think, explained well there, and we like to take the opportunities if they emerge of speaking to audiences, some HR, but it's great to speak to those in line positions and spread the message and raise the profile of the topic.